Okay, that's pretty good. So what the fuck are we doing?
I can't remember what you...
5 ways to start your writing career like a professional.
Like a boss.
Like a motherfucking boss. I feel like we need mics that come up from underneath between your legs.
Do you think that might just get more in the way?
Penis-shaped mics. Yeah. I want mics like the old 70s game shows that are real long but pencil thin.
Like you hold from the waist?
Yeah, it's got to be like almost touching your wiener area and it just goes all the way up.
Like Drew Carey still uses those.
Does he?
I think in The Price is Right. Yeah, I think he's
that show's still on there?
Well, yeah, it's still on.
I watch Jeopardy once in a while. I hate Wheel of Fortune. You think with the writing I would like Wheel of Fortune? I fucking detest it.
You know what I kind of like? I kind of like Let's Make a Deal for some stupid reason. I think it's because, like, normally with Let's Make a Deal, you can normally get away if you're not too greedy with a decent prize. And then whenever they fucking go for the big one, they just get that fucking zonk. I'm just like, ha, fuck you.
Loser.
You should have took the $5,000, you dickhole.
You greedy ass face. Yeah, I don't remember the last time I watched Let's Make a Deal.
I mean, the only time that I ever saw him was like in the break room, so it's not like I'm at home watching it.
Was it just me, or in the old days at the break room they used to have good channels?
Yeah, it was just the TV that worked.
I remember we watched the Super Bowl there one year.
Yeah.
What the fuck happened?
I mean, I think
it used to be like South Park or Family Guy was on, and then all of a sudden it was just like True TV and Real TV.
Probably because that's what they could get for like free.
Cheap assholes.
Yeah.
Alright, let's hop into this episode.
Alright.
Let's go over these points real quick. Okay. 5 is start doing freelance work. 4, do you have it up on your phone?
No.
You might want to do that,
I'm listening to you, bud.
What a fucking jabroni making me do all the work.
Yeah. I thought this has been established.
It's just like that fucking drug business we tried to run out of your basement.
Eating up all the product.
Well, it's what we get when we're trying to sell candy rocks as meth. 4 is submit to fiction magazines. 3 is start a blog. 2 is self-publish. 1 is join a writing group. I hate all these because I don't remember writing them.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't this an article that you did?
Probably. Hey, how's everyone doing? You are listening to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me, as always, is Spencer, the Okinawa Orgy Organizer Church.
What can I say? I'm all about the organization.
Let me ask you this. When you go about organizing an orgy, how does that work? Where do you start?
Females.
Females?
Females, because, I mean, that's the draw. So you gotta make sure you have good females, and then
you have to have a good female to male ratio in an orgy. What if it's a gay orgy though?
Well, I don't.
You don't partake?
No.
You're organizing. You're not partaking, right?
Well, no.
Or are you doing a little both?
Well, it depends on the party.
I think we'll just leave it at that. That sounds like that would get really disgusting very fast. Today's episode is about not orgies. Unless you guys want to talk about orgies. If we had like a live feed somehow where we can have people commenting as they're listening, then I'm sure the episodes would get a lot more interesting.
Yeah, well, I could see us going down some weird alleyways with that.
Yeah, a lot of dark, dirty alleyways.
Brown.
So we're going to go over the 5 ways to start your writing career like a professional, like a boss.
Yeah, I think that's, in hindsight, that's what you should have had the title be, like a boss.
Like a boss. That would be better. I tried to sound professional, and I don't know. I don't know why the fuck I did that. I wrote this article. What was let's check the date here. December 10th, so that's not that long ago. A couple months. I don't remember writing this at all, but it seems like some of this is legit advice. If we just dive right in, number 5 is start doing freelance work. I actually have experience in this.
Yeah, you did this even before you did that even before we had the website and everything up.
That's kind of what reinvigorated my enjoyment of writing, because I wrote when I was young, and I never took it seriously, so I never really looked into being consistent or anything like that. And then when I was in my 20s, I wanted to write, but I really didn't know necessarily how to get back into it. I mean, do you just start telling stories, and how the fuck do you get people to listen? One thing I always wanted to do was get paid to write, which is kind of most writers' goal. And so I started doing like freelance work, and not only did that spark my love for writing again, but it gave me a lot of useful, like working with different editors and stuff. I learned a lot. So that actually benefited my personal writing and kind of got me where I am now, because that's how I learned how to do all the website shit, like different editing and formatting structures and things like that. So
because I know whenever we first started, like, you took the reins on all that because you, like you just said, have had,
well, even like our managing apps and stuff we use, and our social media manager, like we use Trello for to set up the site and post and things like that. I learned all that through just different freelance work and jobs I did, because I worked with hundreds of other writers. So you kind of had to, you either learned and kept up with them or you got fired.
Yeah.
Granted, it's freelance work, so it's not like you're getting paid a lot anyway. I mean, sometimes you can do contracts for like 1 to 3 months or something, but usually it's just like a by article or by piece kind of standard.
But hey, if you do enough of those, though, to help, you might not be able to get paid a whole bunch, but if you do enough of them, not only is it good practice and work, but,
Well, it definitely adds up. I mean, I was making a few grand from just like the articles alone every year, just whenever I felt like doing it. And I was pretty consistent with those for about 3 years. I mean, that paid for a lot of, I bought a lot of dumb shit with that money. I bought an MMA training dummy. You see my room. You see just random shit I have lying around that I didn't need. That was also my, like Comic-Con money.
Yeah.
I just whip out $100 bills for no reason.
Well, like you act like you spend anything at any of the conventions.
What the fuck am I going to buy? They don't hardly ever sell comics at those things anymore.
Sure enough. That's why I like to focus on the artwork.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess if you have good artists, depends which ones you go to. Like, you go to Steel City in Pittsburgh. What am I going to buy? A fucking Thor's hammer-shaped dildo?
Yeah.
I mean,
you've been wanting a Thor's hammer for a while, and if it's shaped like a dildo, that's just win-win.
True.
Now, would the handle be the dildo? Or?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
I mean, the other end, though, you work your way up to it, the big square. It's got rounded edges. The problem with the Thor hammer is I want a real Thor hammer, not a fucking plastic one.
No, remember that one guy did have a Thor hammer that was, like, hard to pick up.
I would have bought it if I didn't have to carry around a fucking Thor hammer. What convention was that? It was one of the ones we didn't have a hotel room at, I think, right?
Was it? Was it one of, like, the smaller ones? Was that, No, I could have sworn it was a Wizard World one, because whichever...
Was it Pittsburgh?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's because I couldn't buy it, because my brother was with us. It had to be Pittsburgh. And I think did we take the T in?
No, we drove. I drove.
We drove? I guess I could have bought it then. I don't fucking know. Maybe I was a broke bitch back then. I don't remember. I'm baller now.
Baller.
You sell enough semen, you get you make that money.
Enough semen and blood can get you a long way.
Not together. So we were covering freelance writing.
Yes. Yeah.
Ew, man, we got mental. We probably should just rename the show too. Just drunk podcast. Like, just get rid of the pen writing part.
The bad thing is, it's not even like there's a lot of drinking going on for doing either episode. Like, so could you imagine if we each stew back a couple?
Like a drunk cast episode?
Yeah, like an actual drunk cast episode?
Yeah, we usually only have 1 or 2 drinks during the podcast itself. But that's just because we want to make some sense.
Yeah.
But anyway, to get back on track a little bit, like a good, that's how I talk about professionalism and how to build your writing career. Freelance work is a great way to do it just because it gets you out there, get your name out there, and it gives you experience writing, like, depending on what you want to do. You can write in genres or different things that you're not used to. So it expands your writing ability. For instance, I had to write a lot of fitness articles, but I wrote like medical articles and like shit I didn't even care about. And I had to you do research and almost like journalism on some of them.
Yeah.
Because unlike a lot of people, I at least took mine seriously for the most part. The funny thing I did find out, though, is the ones you take most serious and you do the most work on go nowhere. But the ones where I'm just writing stupid shit and just winging it, those went viral.
And it helps just even, you never know, who will see your name and what, like, it helps to have your name, out in, like, the fitness stories, journalism, the more different genres you can get your name out there.
Well, you also build connections too. Like I said, like some of the editors I worked with, like I'm still friends with them. I can talk to them here and there. And when they have work come up, sometimes they'll ask me, "Hey, I'm working on this project. You want to jump aboard?" Usually, anymore, I don't really care about doing that stuff. But just having those connections, for instance, if you build enough of them, say one of your editors goes and ends up working for a major magazine.
Yeah.
And they know you do good work. They might recommend you or help, throw a job opening your way before it's actually available and you get first dibs. Just different things like that. That could take you a long way. Number 4, submit to fiction magazines. This is one where I just fucking strike out at. I don't know if my cover letters suck or if I'm just... I will say one of my main problems is most fiction magazines, probably all fiction magazines, they want you to buy a copy of get familiar with the magazine before you submit to it. And I never do that. So I don't know exactly what these magazines look for. And usually they have some kind of theme. And I'm not the best at working with a specific theme if I'm not feeling it. So I might find a project that sounds cool, but halfway through I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I just kind of bail out. But if you do get that kind of goes with the freelance work, just having your name out there, you get into smaller publications. Not only does that help with your portfolio, so you could show people, hey, I've been publishing this, and that. When you submit to bigger magazines, they see you're already publishing these other ones. They will take you more seriously.
Yeah.
The hardest thing for most writers is when they're unpublished trying to break in. Once you get established, you can write fucking dog shit and people will maybe publish it in a better magazine just because you have a name.
Yeah.
Because I've read more mainstream authors in different literary magazines and the fucking story was terrible. But they probably like a Stephen King might get in a magazine. He's not giving his work to it.
Well, I mean, that's you see kind of like that a lot in comics. Once you kind of break in and if you can get a little bit of following and your name out there,
it's easier.
Yeah, and then even whenever your work might be subpar, there's a chances that you can still get a job because at least in that field, it's you got to find somebody to do this title, and you don't have a lot of. A
lot of it comes down to name recognition, because I don't know about you. But a lot of times, if I'm reading a magazine or if I just see an article, I usually will skip over it unless I see a name I recognize or an author I read. And I see that, I'm, oh shit, you know what, I'm going to check this out. Even if, for instance, we go with Stephen King all the time, even his, not Joe Hill, his other son, Owen Hill, if I saw his name attributed to an online store or something, I would probably read it just because it's...
The name, yeah. It's
And I honestly, I've read, I think a short story of his before, but I've never actually read one of his novels or anything. He only has 1 or 2, and then he has one with his dad. But if he had, like I said, if he had something out there just because it's Owen King, I'll check it out. See, it might be worth something. Maybe it's bad, maybe it's good, but you give it a chance just because of the name recognition. That's the hardest part, but that's what you have to do is just build your name up. Once you get to a certain amount of even if it's 100 followers, at least people are reading your work, and then just you could grow from there. But when you start from nothing, that's the hard part.
Yeah, and then because you'd have to think like you were saying, you get those 100 people. There's a good chance that those 100 people also are friends with people who enjoy and like reading, and they might you might get one of those 2 people to recommend you to another two or 3 people, and because. I forget what the number is, but isn't there a saying if you can get I think it's 4,000 or 5,000 people to follow you and support your work.
I thought it was 500. I don't think it's that many.
Really? I can't remember what the number is. I just always hear I think I've heard Kevin Smith say it a couple times you get such and such a number and to kind of support you, and now we're either if you got a Kickstarter or buy a book you put out or something like that, you might not be able to live off of it, but you're able to.
Well, we always said, if you
support yourself a little bit.
If you got 500 people to buy your book at $10 a pop, that's a good chunk of change.
Yeah,
that pays for all the cost of editing and that's if you're self-published. But that cost, marketing, it covers all the cost of everything, promoting the book, and then you still get a chunk of change back. And then, like I said, you could just grow from that. And that's kind of why we started Drunken Pen Writing in the very beginning, is just to get, like, have a platform.
Have an outlet.
Yeah, have a platform for lesser known writers, not just ourselves, but the people who submit to magazines and they don't have the name recognition, so they get overlooked. And maybe whoever's on the editor for that magazine, they read the first paragraph and judge off of that, and they don't go any further.
And you never know, like we were talking about, like the networking. There might be somebody we post one of their stories, and then they go on, and maybe they get work at a magazine or something, and they're like, the editor is like, hey, do you know anybody that, that can do the story, and he might refer, like, one of us or something, or, like, you know what I mean? That's kind of...
Well, I found the audience for my personal stories on the site have grown from writers that I've worked with on the site previously that we've published, that I've talked to them just in emails and stuff. They send their audience my way.
Yeah.
And, they send them to our site just because they mention me by name, so I get a lot of views just from that alone. So my views have gotten pretty steady on everything I publish just from that. So if you can get in a magazine, like even a small publication like ours, just having that platform to show is usually more than enough just to get you that, at least the very smallest of followings that you can build upon. And we'll go into it a little later, but blogging's another way to do that. Yeah. Oh shit, that's the next one. Number 3, start a blog. Yeah, if you get into blogging, it's definitely a lot more personal because you're the one controlling it. You're doing everything. You're relying on yourself, so you have to grow your own brand. But at the same time, like how we go through WordPress. Yeah. That's where our site's hosted from. Well, WordPress, anyone who uses it, anything we post pops up in that, that online catalog. Like anyone uses WordPress will see what we post. So that automatically gives you an audience. Whether they follow you or not depends on the quality of your work. But we have a good bit of followers now. So if you can get your blog up to, like, as long as you're consistent and you post original, interesting content, you'll get followers. Yeah. Because there's people that only read blogs, and I mean, that's fine. But they might not, even if you sold books, they might not buy it. But the fact that they're reading your blog or sharing your blog, that can have a tremendous impact on, say, your Twitter following, your Facebook following, even Instagram. Anything where people who might be interested in what you do, they see that you're publishing stuff frequently, they'll follow you on all those platforms versus just WordPress. And also, going kind of piggybacking on the on blogging, self-publishing is another way to go, which I find is more prominent now than ever.
Oh, yeah. It's just, well, the technology itself just makes it so much more easier than what... Could you imagine, like, even when we were in, like, high school, could you imagine what it would have been like to try to self-publish something?
It'd be a major pain in the ass. I know Stephen King, I think, in On Writing, talked about he had a newspaper/magazine him and his brother did in their basement or something. I believe it was him. Yeah. And that was like a self-published thing. They handed it out. Like, imagine how hard that would be. Not just the actual putting it together, which would be difficult too. I mean, not so much now, but back then. But just the fact that you're relying on handing them out to people individually, like, that would fucking suck.
Yeah. And just the cost of everything's more expensive. The being able to just write things more, like, laptop, like, 10, 15 years ago, like, that dog shit, like,
piece of garbage. Well, self-publishing, we have authors now who make, and we're not even talking about mainstream authors that make 6, maybe even 7 figures.
These are people that, like, and not to, like, say anything against them, but, like, people you might not even hear of. Yeah, and they're self-publishing, and they're making bank, like, enough bank that they can, support themselves and do it full time.
For instance, a lot of romance and sci-fi authors that are indie authors, they're competing with bestseller type numbers without having that market at all because they have no publishing house behind them. They're doing everything themselves. And here's the thing about self-publishing. If you do it right, you're going to want to hire an editor, which could be a couple grand for a book. Yeah. You have to, again, this all goes to your skills. If you're a graphic designer, you have those abilities. You won't have to do the covers or formatting. But if you, say for us, if we just start at the basics, we're not good at graphic design, anything like that. So you hire an editor, You hire somebody to do your book cover, somebody to format your book, and then whatever brand or whoever you're publishing it through, whatever company. So you're probably looking at $3,000 to $5,000 for a self-published book that's done professionally, but you get 100% of the profits.
Yeah.
Unless you have somebody do like the audiobook version for you or something, like the reading, or you have a guest writer, you are netting 100% of the profits. If you work, like, get published through a major publishing house, what is it, like 15%?
If you're lucky, I think.
You make fucking dick. Anymore, going through a traditional publisher, other than the fact that you kind of avoid the stigma of, oh, he's a self-published author, somehow that people equate that to a lesser quality. If you go through a mainstream publisher, that's like, other than that, there's no real reason.
Well, I think a lot of it would have to do too, just to kind of being able to kind of check that off the list of being able to have it, to write a story that got like put out by like, you know, one of the main publishers.
Penguin House or whatever.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I think it's kind of like a goal. Like, you know what I mean? Not necessarily a necessity, but a goal. And I don't know, like, say, like, if you self-publish, are you still able to get, like, on, like, if you sell enough, can you still get on, like, the New York Times bestseller, or do you have to be published from one of the main?
I'm not sure. There's a couple things I've looked into in the past. For instance, I always wondered, can you win a Pulitzer? Can you submit your work for a Pulitzer Prize if you're an indie author? You can, but it's never been done. I don't know if people submitted, but nobody's won.
Yeah.
Again, that kind of goes with the stigma, because I feel there's more and more mainstream authors going the self-publishing route now than there ever was before, too.
Oh, yeah, especially now, like, if you're already a known writer, it's great because you would hopefully have enough money banked up where you can spend, like, that $5,000 to get a book made.
Oh, it'd be easy for them, and they already have the connections.
And you have, so you have the connections, so you might be able to will and deal a little bit of that stuff.
Get the real editors and everything.
And then you got the fan base that, you know, like if Stephen King wanted to self-publish something, that's not going to affect his sales anyways, because a lot of his fans would go to, like, the end of the earth if that's what I was like, okay, you can only get it in store in Tahiti.
I'm surprised.
Like, I guess I'm taking a trip to Tahiti then.
I'm surprised he doesn't do something like that, because he's had awful transactions with his publishers and things like that. He's been screwed over a lot, I remember, and a lot of famous authors complain about the publishing houses, the contracts they get put into. Just fuck them. You get these book deals, and for us, a book deal. Like, that seems like something that'd be major. Like, you'd make it if you got like a three book deal or whatever. But once you get in one of those, you realize you're not getting. They're taking most of the money, and you still have to do all the promotion. What are they doing? Other than the fact that they distribute your book and, you know, they actually make the physical copies. Why? And if you have to do all the marketing for the book, most of it, why the fuck do you need them?
Well, the only other thing I could maybe think they could help with, and at this point it's almost like a non-factor, but they might be able to help you get into actual, like, different bookstores.
Well, that's what I'm saying, the distribution-wise. Because if you're a self-publisher, you have to do that yourself. A lot of self-published authors, they just go through Amazon.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but... Well, this actually brings up another point. Like, Barnes & Noble has been failing for a long time now. One of the things they could have done to compete with Amazon and not be doing as poorly as they are is if they brought in indie authors.
I think I heard one of the guys from the Dead Robots Society talking about that.
It was a major topic for a while here, because it makes sense. If they started... You're having trouble selling books because they're expensive at Barnes & Noble.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you bring in indie authors, have their work on the shelves? That kind of cuts out Amazon. Because that's what Amazon has going for it, is the indie author market. That's what's really keeping them ahead of the game. Because no one else... You can't go to an independent bookstore and find indie work usually, unless it's, like, local.
Now, whenever it comes to the self-publishing, I don't know, because I didn't get a chance to read the article. Do you go in to the differences between, like, self-publishing when it comes to, like, the actual book, or to, like, just like a digital or, like, audio?
I don't think I broke it down like that. Usually, if you're self-publishing, if you're real serious, you do all of it.
Yeah, because like that's the one thing. Like, there's like these some writers, like some of these like indie writers that I would like to check out, but it's like, oh, you can only get it for like the Kindle or whatever. It's like I want.
Yeah, the ebook. You want the physical book.
Yeah, like I want the actual book.
Well, a lot of them do that because
it's cheap. It's a lot cheap, and I mean. That would be probably something that we would have to do, too, for the most part.
See, but I don't think we would because it's go by print on demand.
Yeah.
So it's only printed. I mean, granted, there's a chunk of change that gets taken off of printing cost, but that's from the actual book sale itself. The reason a lot of indie authors don't try to branch out and get into bookstores is because most bookstores, even independent ones, require not just a certain amount of books that you can deliver, but take back.
Yeah.
So if they don't sell, you credit them, and that would just sink an indie author.
Yeah.
That's kind of that's the reason why publishing houses are still, top dog, is because they can distribute 5,000 to 10,000 books and take back 7,000 that didn't sell and give the cost, the money back to the bookstore. You can't do that as an indie author. You'd just go bankrupt. You wouldn't be able to write anymore.
I would feel so nervous about buying anything ever. Like,
it would suck.
I pay my cable bill and then I get something from like the local books and they're like, "Oh, we need to give you back these 25 books. Give us some money." Like, oh my god, like,
$500 out of your pocket. That would be terrible. That would be my nightmare. If I was to go the indie route, because I figured we do like a short story collection and stuff. We'll do that.
Which we need to get on that. I think.
Oh, definitely. We actually have enough stories. We could probably take shit from the site and just put it into a collection too. Because I learned all about how to do everything. It's just kind of a matter of time. Because we were trying to get the podcast off too.
Yeah. This was a whole endeavor. But at least now it seems we got this into a nice kind of.
Yeah, we got a good groove here. I mean, other than editing and putting up the podcast, recording is not a problem. So this is pretty good. Managing time, not fucking around on the couch so much. That's kind of what I need to get better at.
Well, that's like today I spent like maybe like an hour and a half, maybe almost close to 2 hours writing. But I could have probably spent like
way more,
3 or 4 at least. There was so much. I was off today. There was so much and it wasn't even like I was doing anything productive like the last couple of my days off. I might not have got a whole bunch of writing done, but like I put like a couple hundred comic books away and got things straightened up and kind of fixed my writing area up a little bit more, so it felt like I was still like accomplished anything. No, I just kind of like laid around. Like I didn't even like I have so many TV shows like I need caught up on. I didn't even do that. Like I was just like kind of just sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah, it sucks. Well, another reason too, I feel we didn't get the because we had a short story project almost ready to go. We just had to finish a couple stories. But I think one of the main problems, which really isn't a problem at all, is we just improved dramatically since we first started the site and everything. So the projects we had started, like I'd go back and read the one story, the long one. The story isn't awful, but the fucking writing is. And just to go back and rewrite like a 10,000 word story, that's murder for me. I just don't want to do it.
And it's kind of like, what's the point?
Yeah, a lot of this old stuff I just kind of gave up on, and I'm just going to move on and just, do better work.
The only thing you maybe would do is like if you not rewrite it, but like if it's like a premise or something, you
just
might
save
the premise and retool it for something else.
Yeah, that's a big to-do. But yeah, self-publishing is a great way to go if you just want to, especially if you want to get your name out there. I've spoken to a lot of authors on Twitter who, that's all they do now. They tried the traditional publishing route. Like some of the writers that submitted to us, I've read their work, and it's quality work. I don't think it's a problem with their actual writing. It's just trying to get into one of these publishers. It's almost a thing of luck.
Yeah, the luck of the draw.
I mean, even like a guy like Stephen King, you can't tell me his first fucking how many stories weren't good enough to be published. It's just he was a no-name, so who would take a risk?
What I wouldn't do to get a chance to read some of those those stories like he talked about on writing, where he had like a ring of where he would keep rejection letters.
Yeah.
To read those stories that got the rejection letters, I would love to just be able to check out, to go back in time and see what those were, to see if there were any stories that are famous for now that he fixed or stuff, reworked.
There's no way, as long as he had the writing fundamentals down, that his first works weren't good enough to be in like some shitty pulp magazine. Because I've read some work in shitty pulp magazines and they're shitty even now. So I don't see how a guy like that can. We know it, just to even go back to like different literary magazines that I've read. Like that one I got from Barnes & Noble a couple weeks ago. I'm not going to name it because I don't want to shit on it. But like, because it's a very quality magazine, every single story or poem in there I've read, I think is garbage.
Yeah.
Boring. Like it's a lot of flash fiction, which is no good. A lot of short stories that just don't go anywhere. And a lot of poetry. Well, poetry's suggestive.
Yeah.
Or, for me, I can't really shit on poetry because it's not my wheelhouse. But short stories and flash fiction, I know what's good and what's not good. And the fact that these got published, I'm wondering what kind of clout these authors already had to get into the magazine. Because there's no way they could be no names with that kind of work. I mean, I don't want to sound like a hater, but I hate.
But I do.
I do. I hate how I can read a major like even like the New Yorker or something. Sometimes I'll read a short story in there, and I'm like, why is this not that good?
It should be better.
What editor passed this? I mean, I get that the author is famous, but is that your only qualification for being in here? Is people know you? I mean, I know it looks good on the fucking cover to say, hey, on the New Yorker, James Patterson has a short story in the New Yorker this month or whatever. But if it sucks, it sucks. I don't know why I guess that's in all forms of pop culture anymore. If you have the name, you get away with like a Nicolas Cage. This motherfucker, at what point do people just stop caring? At what point are they just like, you can't be in movies anymore, dude?
I think, National Treasure 2. I think that's when a lot of people were like, and he used to be so good.
So good. It's a damn disappointment.
But he got your Lovecraft movie coming out, right?
I think he'll be good in that because he's going to be a nut job, right?
I mean,
I want to see overacting and H.P. Lovecraft. That goes together.
Now, I'm just picturing Wicker Man.
The bees!
Yeah!
The fish monsters! Oh my god, the fish monsters! His overacting is great, though.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just what movie it's in. If it's a serious movie, no. Number 1. Join a writing group. Or a writing community, if you will. This does a few things we've talked about probably way too much in the past already, which isn't that long ago. But to join a writing group, I mean, we could go over like the critiques. That helps build, just taking criticism from your fellow writers helps you improve. But I'm actually going to go towards the networking aspect of this. When you join a writing group, whatever writers you're in there with, you befriend them, you guys all share your work. Well, say one of your writers in your group starts to make a bigger name for themselves than everyone else in the group. As long as he or she's not a total dick.
And you're not a dick.
Yeah. They might, 1, be able to help you with your work, but 2, they start getting befriending different editors and editors-in-chiefs at different magazines. They can bring you in maybe, or recommend you, or you say you have a short story, like,
hey, this guy works for cheap.
Yeah, well, like you can have a magazine or a story you're submitting to a magazine, and like, reviewed from, and say the name of the person that was involved in your short story. People might take it a little more seriously. Not that you necessarily want to name drop, but sometimes you do.
And it's helpful. It's another tool. Sometimes it is who you know.
Usually it's who you know. Guaranteed, if you're an adequate writer, one of your family friends is the fucking main editor, like Scribner or something, you're getting a book published.
Yeah.
If you're really serious about getting a book published, because that guy, he'll pull some strings for you.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just not even in writing. It's in everything. In any job, it's who you know. Like, when that dickhole that doesn't do anything gets the raise and the promotion, and you get stuck doing the same thing, it's just because you fucking knew somebody, or he was a brown nose, or whatever it is. Like,
Well, I'm going to say, my job now, I got into it because I knew somebody that worked there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot of the...
And that person doesn't even work there anymore.
Yeah. Well, I didn't tell you. The language app I use on my phone to learn Spanish and Japanese, Duolingo, I found out they're based out of Pittsburgh, and they were hiring for a product writer. So I applied there. That was like a week ago. I haven't heard anything back yet, but I was actually qualified for it for a change. They didn't...
What's what would you have to write about? Like, what's...
It's for the English version of Duolingo, so I would just be making like the sentences and stuff and doing blog posts and their social media posts and things like that, which would be fucking cool because they have, not to go into anything people don't care about, but eye, dental, full health care, like 3 or 4 weeks off for vacation. They have a gym in the fucking building, that like a company gym, free parking.
Would you have to go there to do it, or can you just do it here?
No, you gotta go there, but that would be fine because they have free transportation. They can give you a card or something, and they have free lunch every day, like catered lunch. So that would be really cool.
And you could learn your Spanish and Japanese.
I know, I could keep doing it. Well, that's the thing. I love their product. Maybe Duolingo will be a sponsor one day of the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. That'd be great. But not that they're an actual sponsor of ours, but that's actually a product I really enjoy. I use it every single day, and to work there would be awesome. It's a long shot because I've never worked for a software company, but if I could get in, that would be pretty sweet.
That'd be pretty cool.
Plus, I would be making paper.
You won't have to deal with all the cold anymore.
No cold, no drunks.
Well, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, it's Pittsburgh. There's a lot of drunks. But anyway, I don't remember what the fuck I brought that topic up for.
Who you know in the writing.
Right. But if I knew somebody who worked at that company, that would probably be an automatic in.
Yeah, or at least a better shot, at least.
Yeah, like if I was friends with one of the developers or something, they could say, hey, Caleb's a writer. How about you, pick him up? But that's about all we have on this topic, I think. I mean, it was a pretty short list, surprisingly. Yeah. 5 ways to start your writing career like a professional. Do you have any closing remarks?
Just that, I think those are all excellent points and things that you should try to...
I would say if you want to make it in the writing business, the main things you must do, stay consistent.
Yes.
Which means put out, not just write consistently, but put out work consistently. Weekly, daily, whatever you can manage. But the more work you put out, the more your name will grow, and the better chance you'll have of getting published by a mainstream publisher when the time comes. Because if they look at your Twitter following or Facebook or whatever and see you have hundreds of thousands of followers, and maybe even if you were a self-published author, that gives them a book they can read.
Yeah.
So stay consistent. Here's something I always recommend. That sucks ass. Do the boring stuff.
Yeah.
You have to learn how to do the shitty parts, like we talked about editing on the previous episode. So just going over editing or learning the rules, that stuff sucks. Or like people just want to write the story and be done with it.
Yeah, it's not all fun, about writing the story about the guy fighting the dragon with the big sword. You have to do the promoting. You have to do all the legwork.
You have to do everything, and it's terrible. But to build up your following, you have to do these small things. There's that goddamn Apache helicopter again.
Having flashbacks from the NAM.
Oh.
There's Charlies everywhere.
God damn it.
I just see Willem Dafoe's over there getting shot up.
Why is it gonna be Willem Dafoe?
Because isn't that him in the Platoon movie? Isn't that him that's he's just getting riddled with... I've
seen about 27 Vietnam era movies, but I've never seen Platoon. I watched Apocalypse Now recently. Yeah. Marlon Brando, fucking crazy as shit. And Martin Sheen, just drunk and actually injuring himself on camera.
That was a crazy movie. Didn't that take forever to make?
Probably. Well, that's all we have to wrap about this topic. We wanted to keep this episode a little shorter. We try to do short episodes, and we still usually go about 45 minutes, which isn't bad.
That's a good pace.
But we're hitting an hour and a half for some of them for a while, so try to shorten those a little bit.
Well, I think it all depends on the subject matter of the topic, too. Some things garnish more time than others.
Right.
You just don't want to hear us ramble and ramble and ramble for no reason.
Unless you do. Some of our rambles are good. But if you folks have any ideas for podcast episodes or topics that you would like us to talk about, you can email us at drunkenpenwriting@gmail.com. You can message us or hit us up on Twitter at Drunk Pen Writing. And you can always go to the website, drunkenpenwriting.com. And you can hit us up on Facebook because we kind of fuck around there too. And that's about it. So, Okinawa Orgy Organizer. Any last words?
No, I think we got it.
I just want to say that again. It seems like a tongue twister, but I could say it pretty good.
Open with it and close with it.
Right? That's better than the Armenian ass astronomer that we had the one last episode. That was an ordeal to get through that. You folks have a wonderful good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it may be. See you later.
Bye.
Bam, 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 bam.